Hello there internet, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lisa the PFJ and today we will be covering what I think are the best and worst videos of 2021. I'm going to talk about the films I watched and loved and also a little bit about the movies that I avoided. If you're watching this and enjoying it, I would ask if you could please leave a like, a comment and also subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. Okay, let's get right down to it. The movies I loved this year. I watched not as many movies as I probably could have. Time constraints and everything, very busy. I have a son who I've homeschooled on and off for about the last year and a half, so that tends to affect things and makes me quite precious with what I spend my spare time watching. So the truth is I watch a lot more YouTube than I used to, and that tends to be where my entertainment comes from, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. So what we will talk about are the movies I've seen and enjoyed. The first film I remember watching this year that I really enjoyed watching was Nobody, the action thriller starring Bob Odenkirk. It was extremely enjoyable. I had a great time watching it. I thought Bob Odenkirk was great. I think he put a lot of effort into the movie. It was very similar to, had a similar template to the John Wick model, but it was still a highly enjoyable movie, and I think Bob Odenkirk had the biggest part to do with that. I think the action in it was fantastic. It's very violent and gory, but I don't have a problem with that. And I gave it a very high thumbs up, I would say, for a good way to kick off this list. I also enjoyed the Snyder cut of the Justice League. I know that's a pretty divisive topic amongst certain corners and communities of the internet and people who like their comic books, but being someone who's from outside of that circle and only really has knowledge of the movie side of things, I very much enjoyed it. It was definitely better than the Joss Whedon effort from a few years ago. It was obviously quite long, but that was easily combated for us by just splitting it over two viewings. We watched one half one night and the next half the following night. It was very much better fleshed out than the original one. It made me come to understand a lot of the characters a lot better than I did from watching the original. I thought it did a much better job of furthering Batman and Wonder Woman and even Superman. I very much enjoyed Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman, and I have done for the most part, even if the movies he's been in haven't been up to scratch. I also very much liked a lot of the action that took place in, I hope I'm saying this right, Themyscira with the Amazonians. I thought those scenes were epic, spectacular. I thought even though it was quite clearly CGI in a lot of it, it was very well executed, and the biggest standout for me was the furthering of the character of Darkseid, the villain of the piece. I thought he was much better fleshed out as well. I thought his intentions were much easier to understand than they were from the first one, where he was just thrown in and you were just expected to look at him and go, evil, bad. I thought he was much better explained, and his story was much better rounded in this go of the movie, so that also got a thumbs up from me. I also very much enjoyed Dune. I'm not a fan of the books or the original movie. That's not to say I wouldn't read them. I simply haven't read them. I probably will at some point. I would like to try, but I saw the original David Lynch one many years ago. Don't have much recollection of it, but this one was really impressive. I thought the performances in it for the most part were pretty good. I think Stellan Skarsgård playing the character whose name I forget at the moment, Baron something or other. It doesn't sound very professional, but I thought he was very well done, and that's not hard for anyone to understand if they've seen him in anything prior. Stellan Skarsgård is a fantastic actor. I thought Timothée Chalamet was very capable in his role. I don't know a great deal of his stuff. I haven't seen him in a lot of things, but for what I have seen him in, he tends to be pretty good. So I think he was impressive. I thought the scenery and the cinematography and the score were phenomenal. I thought everything just worked together. The effects were fantastic. They were some of the best I've seen in a long time. And having been drowned in effects-ridden movies for such a long time through the likes of the MCU and other action movies, it sometimes gets a little bit sort of static. If you want me to try and explain it, it just looks like something that blends into the background. It doesn't seem to have a great deal of impact or effect on me, and it all starts to look a bit samey after a while. Whereas in this one, it was clear that were aiming to do something spectacular and awe-inspiring and jaw-dropping, and it did all of those things. And that is credit a lot to, I guess, the director, Denis Villeneuve. I hope I pronounced his name right. Yeah, that was a big hit for me. I very much enjoyed it. I wish I'd seen it at the cinema, and I know a lot of people would probably berate me for not seeing it at the cinema, but assuming I'm limited in my capacity where I live, and I have a young son, so dragging him along to things like that isn't always the best idea. But that is a regret. But even just seeing it in a decent sized TV with a good sound system was more than enough, and I definitely would recommend it to anyone who just wants to see a good action sci-fi story. And I'm also very excited to know that there's a sequel in the making, so I'll talk more about that kind of thing in another video. Anyway, and finally, the other film I liked a lot was Suicide Squad. I don't have a great deal to add to it other than I found that, again, similar to Justice League, a lot more entertaining than the first effort. I don't think that was hard because the first effort was dreadful. I think the performances from everyone were really good. I liked Idris Elba, I liked John Cena, I can't remember the chap's name who played Polka Dot Man. I thought he was a great character, right up my street with I think James Gunn was going for with that character. Was just dark humour, coming from a very sort of quite morbid place of he's been hideously abused, but somehow still manages to come out with some of the funniest lines in the whole film. I even quite liked, I'm one of the few people out there who did not like Margot Robbie's take on Harley Quinn. I quite liked her appearance in this one. I think she was much better done in this one than she was in the original. I found her much more entertaining and just even quite likeable, if you can call a villain likeable, than she was previously. So that one gets a small shout out. And Spider-Man Far From Home. No Way Home. Is it No Way? It's No Way Home. My apologies. No Way Home. Done a video on that already. If you want to check it out, go to my channel if you would be so kind. What I didn't like, now the thing I have is that there wasn't anything I didn't like specifically, because I've learned in the past year or so to be a lot more picky about what I will and will not watch because of time constraints and just commitments and things of just day-to-day life that just make it easier for me to make those choices. So as a result of that, there isn't anything I've seen that I particularly hated or really disliked, but there were things that, thanks to the influences of certain other YouTube channels who I watch frequently and review these sorts of things, that I decided to just give a wide berth. So thanks to you guys for that, or maybe I will at some point go back and watch them again so that I can give them a better take. But what I did avoid were pretty much all of the Phase 4 MCU efforts, or MCU as Gary from Nerdrotic calls it. Shout out to Nerdrotic. I didn't want to see any of those movies because nothing about them stood out for me at all. There was nothing about them that made me get any kind of urge to get out there and get watching. And even when I did have a subscription to Disney Plus, which I don't anymore, I could talk about that another time as well, why. I just didn't feel the urge or the inclination to see any of them. None of them stood out to me. They didn't look like they had characters I would be interested in. They didn't look like I'd never really heard of any of them before, I'll be honest, apart from Black Widow, which in my opinion is a movie that should have came five in the last 5-10 years, I would say, when her arc was in much more of a thing that I would have been interested in. But now that her arc was started and ended in the Infinity Saga and came to quite a satisfying, if quite sad ending, it still was an ending and I didn't need to see it, so I missed out on that. And as a result also, the TV series that came out on Disney Plus 2, which I just, wasn't going to touch at all. Better things to do with my time. The other ones, let me think now, were James Bond, the No Time to Die. The marketing for that was poor. The whole thing just came across as being quite pandering and virtue signalling, and just trying to push you through this idea that women are just as good as men are. It's this spy thing, and yes, that is true, but we go to a James Bond film to see James Bond, and whether or not you like Daniel Craig's take on it, I know a lot of people don't, I know some people do. Me, for the most part, I think he's been okay. I thought Casino Royale was great. I thought he worked really well in that movie. He portrayed Bond really well. He had his good sort of devil-may-care, stoic sort of get the job done attitude. Very, very spot on in my opinion. As the films went on though, they got just kind of worse. I thought I didn't really like Quantum of Solace. I enjoyed Skyfall probably more than some people did, at least initially. Upon reviewing it over time, I have some problems with it, but still thought it was quite a well-made film. I think because Sam Mendes was at the helm, that helped a lot. But then that didn't really stand the test of time when Spectre came out, which was just a hot mess, which I've only seen once and I have not watched again since. In fact, that's a lie, I've seen it twice. I watched it once when it came out, and then second time when myself and my husband went through watching all the Bond movies again back a couple of years ago now. I think it might have been during the height of the pandemic, where we just went through a thing of watching those movies again, and it made no sense first time around, and maybe even less sense second time around. So yeah, going back to the No Time to Die, I just had no interest in seeing Bond being turned into this kind of thing. It's not the right platform for it. It isn't even a platform at all. It's a classic intellectual property which was created at a certain time and cultivated an even bigger reputation as the movies went on of being this classically masculine, stoic, capable man who will do the job he does and will use whatever means he needs to achieve his mission, his goal. So there's nothing wrong with that being the way it is. It should stay that way as far as I'm concerned, and just seeing how people have reacted to it. Again, like I said, I've gone and watched a lot of the YouTube guys that I watch frequently. Watching those guys talk about it, I was like, I don't want to see this. I have fond memories of watching the likes of Sean Connery and Roger Moore do their thing with this role, and watching those on a weekend sometimes, because where we're from, reruns of those movies are on frequently throughout the year, and I think they still are even now. And they just provide good nostalgic feelings for me, and it's not something I really want to be ruined. So yeah, that was avoided like the plague. The final one that I avoided very much so was, even though it came out quite recently, was West Side Story, the remake that came out on Disney Plus of that. Now, as I go on, at some point I may make a video. I will tell you, I am a huge musical fan. I love all the classic musicals from the golden era of MGM. I like the Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals. I even like some of the more modern ones like Chicago and ones like that. I like Rocky Horror. That is one of my all-time favourites. But my one that I hold in highest regard for its technical and its musical and choreography achievements is West Side Story. It is, in my opinion, the best musical ever made. The original one with Natalie Wood and Rita Moreno, and that to me is the standard which was set all those years ago for what a great musical should be. Even though it wasn't an original story of its own, because it's based on Romeo and Juliet, as you may or may not know, it still was an achievement that told a great story, and through just through the medium of music and dance, and it was fantastic, and is the go-to one if anyone wants an introduction to musicals and wants to start themselves on a path of watching some of the greatest musicals of all time. They need to watch West Side Story. I've avoided it mostly because I just don't want to see it being remade. I don't think it needs to be remade. It was a perfect movie to me, and much in the same way with the James Bond thing, it holds great memories for me. It's why I love musicals. As one of the reasons is West Side Story, and I didn't need to see it remade. And even if it does have someone as legendary as Steven Spielberg at the helm, I just don't see what he could bring to the table that would improve it. Because surely that would be the whole idea of remaking a movie, is because you think you can do something different, or you can do something to make it better. A perfect movie doesn't need to be made better, and West Side Story to me is a perfect movie. And then in the wake of some of the marketing, seeing some of the things that were said, and again just pandering, the whole story I believe was Steven Spielberg saying that he wasn't going to add subtitles for some of the Spanish language spoken lines because he didn't want to give power to the English language. It's like, all you're going to do is ensure that people don't understand some of your film. Why would you do that? It just made no sense to me. And I suppose at current day, he thinks he's doing something that's going to benefit one side over another, but all he's doing is alienating a bunch of people who aren't going to understand what's being said in his film. So really just not a smart move in my opinion, and made it even more clear in my mind why I really didn't want to see this film. And it's a shame, because I'm sure the people in the film did their best. They worked very hard. I do know that there's the chap called Ansel Elgort, I believe. He was the lead guy in Baby Driver, which is a film I love, and I would have loved to have seen what he had to do with the role. And I want to stipulate as well that I am and always have been the type of person who tries to give something the benefit of the doubt and form my own opinion of something. So if there's a film that comes out that, even if I don't think it looks that great, or if it's something that's a remake of something I love, for instance, like West Side Story, I in the past would have always given it a chance. But like I said, I have other things to do with my time that make it so that I have to be a lot more precious about what I choose to watch and not watch. So that's why West Side Story didn't make the cut. And one final one was the new Matrix movie, which I won't go over again, but it's for very similar reasons to the last couple of films that I've just talked about. I love the original Matrix. The first one was fantastic. Its rewatch value is huge. I've seen it several times over the last 20 odd years since it came out, and it, again, similar reasons from the last. I have seen and heard the reviews and I'm just not feeling it. So again, I won't waste my time. I think that about covers it. So if you've stayed with me this long, I thank you. If you like what I had to say, please give me a like, a comment and subscribe if you feel like it. If you didn't like what I said, fair enough. I appreciate you sticking around this long anyway. And finally, shout out to the Friday Night Tights guys. I will be aiming to watch your live stream later on tonight, which is something I rarely get to do because of time difference issues. But tonight will be the night, guys. So happy Hogmanay, happy New Year, and cheers, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.